Kenny Rogers' legacy lives on, as his legendary songs are still as popular today as they were back in the 1980s. In this documentary, we're going to take a journey back to where it all began. We're going to examine his childhood, find out when and how he became interested in country music, and also examine the path that led to this great man's first big break in the music industry itself. We're also going to take a look at his very first successful album release, and talk about Kenny's many other songs and albums. We're going to touch on the very sad passing of this legendary singer-songwriter, and listen to, and study the modern-day reactions to some of Kenny Rogers' greatest songs, and learn more about his incredible voice from a vocal expert. My name is Andrew Stack. On behalf of WMH, thanks for joining me on this fascinating journey into Kenny Rogers. From Irish-American descendants, Kenneth Ray Rogers was born on August 21, 1938 in Houston, Texas. His father, Edward Floyd Rogers, was a carpenter, and his mother, Lucille, a nurse's assistant. They managed to raise young Kenny in financially tough circumstances, growing up in a government housing project house. He attended Jefferson Davis High School in Houston, where he eventually became the very first member of his family to graduate. It was in high school when Kenny first decided to pursue a career in music. In the mid-1950s, he joined a band called Scholars. The group came to Providence after they released the song Poor Little Doggy.
His heart seems to carry such a heavy load, with his head held high and his tail hung low. He's a poor little doggy walking down the road.
But in 1958, he came out with a minor solo release of his own, entitled That Crazy Feeling.
Keeps my heart pounding like the ocean of the day. But it's got my heart leaving. Oh yes, I've got that crazy feeling.
Then he later became a member of the jazz group the Bobby Doyle Trio, of which they attracted a very healthy allegiance of fans, as they were also working for Columbia Records at the time. In 1965, the Bobby Doyle Trio broke up, and in the following year, Kenny recorded the jazzy rock single Here's That Rainy Day. After the single failed, he continued to work as a writer, session musician, and producer with other artists. In 1966, he became part of the American folk music group the New Christy Minstrels, of which he was both a singer and double bass player, but was not happy with his association with the group, as he wasn't receiving the notoriety and success that he had hoped for. In 1967, Kenny formed a band called The First Edition. The band also included fellow minstrel members, Thyma Camacho, Terry Williams and Mike Settle. The group was later renamed Kenny Rogers and The First Edition. They were very successful, releasing an array of hits that topped the pop and country charts at the time. Now let me take you on a nostalgic journey into Chapter 3, as I explore the very beginnings of Kenny Rogers' solo career in music. List his many movie appearances, and start to examine some of his legendary songs. In 1976, in order to pursue a solo career, Kenny left The First Edition, after being with the group for 10 long years.
Now let's all sing together. We'll fly away, oh glory.
In that same year, he released his very first solo album, called Love Lifted Me. However, this first album only managed to achieve a relatively small amount of success. But in the following year, he released a self-titled second studio album, Kenny Rogers, which was released worldwide. It was his first major solo success, and included the hit singles, Laura and Lucille. And in July of the same year, he released his third solo album, Daytime Friends, which featured such tracks as Rock and Roll Man and Desperado. In 1978, Kenny released his hit solo album, Love or Something Like It. The title track on this album was a huge success. And later that same year, he also released a collaboration album, called Every Time Two Fools Collide. Then finally in November, he released his 6th studio album. This album was called The Gambler. The album's title track rocketed on, and earned Kenny a Grammy Award and topped the charts, which at that time made him the most popular artist by a country mile.
Thing at all. The boy dies. Guaranteed.
Let me tell you something. You don't worry about Stowbridge. You worry about me.
In 1980, Kenny played a starring TV acting role as Brady Hawks, a seasoned poker player, in CBS's hit American Western, which was titled Kenny Rogers as the Gambler. The movie was an instant hit, and was the highest-rated TV film of the year. And as a result, Kenny appeared in 4 more TV movies, in which he replayed the same character. His other movie appearances over the years went on to include Six Pack, Christmas in America, and Coward of the County. Okay, now let's examine another one of Kenny's many chart-topping albums. This one was simply titled Kenny, in which he released in 1979, and included major hits, such as You Decorated My Life, and his legendary track Coward of the County.
It never stood one single time to prove the county wrong.
Now let's hear what legendary YouTube reactor, Neal Darion, has to say about some of the lyrics to this song.
Everybody's tell me a coward because he's done nothing to prove him wrong. It's because his dad, on his dad's deathbed, got his final words, stand in trouble if you can, turn the other cheek. I love that advice. I love that advice. I hate that people are calling names that frustration, but I love that advice. You know what I'm saying? Good advice, Dad. Let's keep going, though. We got 3 minutes left. Let's can't stop here.
Hope you're old enough to understand.
Tommy was turning the other cheek. He turned it for as long as he could, guys, because that's what his dad wanted. Stay out of trouble, turn the other cheek. But when they mess with Becky, when they mess with his love, there's no more cheeks to turn. That's it. That we got a problem, so we gotta solve it. Went to the bar room. Tommy had to let him know what I'm saying? I don't have to fight to be a man, but sometimes you gotta fight when you are a man.
In September of 1980, Kenny released a song called Lady, a Lionel Richie-produced single. It was another instant smash hit, and was to be undisputably Kenny's greatest ever love song.
Very much. I have a new single that's been out maybe 10 days or so. For those of you who have not heard it, I will tell you that it was written and produced by a young man named Lionel Richie of the Commodores.
Young man.
And it's called Lady.
Just quickly, I like the fact that he's given respect and credit to the guy who wrote the song. I don't know many people who would do that. And, oh no, I'm not going to talk. I'll do it in a minute.
In order to gain a professional's perspective on Kenny's live performance of this song, I've personally chosen to highlight several small snippets of this great reaction by vocal expert, Rebecca, from her YouTube channel Rebecca Vocal Athlete.
You're the love of my life. You're my lady.
Goodness, he was handsome. Handsome award. Isn't he? Silver Fox. That beautiful and well-written song. And he's got a very particular style, particular way. Very casual, kind of. He seems such a gentleman. And he seems like, good grief, he can rock a beard and a most gorgeous hairstyle like that. A very soft kind of vocal and veering on like a vocal fry or distortion then, and a somewhat playful manner with the vocal.
You have gone.
R.I.P. Kenny. R.I.P. Kenny Rogers. Always a extremely sad time when someone passes away. Generally speaking, when someone passes away, and when it's a musician, an artist, a singer, we feel so connected to them.
I try to do songs that say what every man would like to say and every woman would like.
In March of 2020, CNN News reports of a world-changing event. In many ways, the world did indeed change forever, when on the following day, the sad news of Kenny Rogers' passing, on March 20th at the age of 81, was to hit the press and stun the entire world. And a dedicated commitment to charity work was also to play a huge part in Kenny's later life.
The world raised money for African famine relief, and he helped organize the poverty fundraiser Hands Across America. Later in life, Rogers opened a chain of restaurants, launched a record label, published his autobiography, and he was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. In 2015, at the age of 77, Rogers embarked on a tour billed as The Gambler's Last Deal, still singing his classics and still getting applause.
In a career spanning 6 decades, in which he released no less than 80 singles, 39 studio albums, and 27 music videos, including an incredible 43 compilation albums, Kenny Rogers was a true musical legend in every sense of the word. His duets with artists such as Dolly Parton, Kim Carnes, Dottie West, and Sheena Easton will be loved and immortalized forever, including beautifully performed numbers such as Islands in the Stream, We've Got Tonight, and Don't Fall in Love with a Dreamer, just to name a few. Kenny's loyal fans were gifted one final farewell from their country music icon, when the late superstar's recording of the haunting and poignant ballad, Goodbye, which was written by his longtime friend Lionel Richie, was released by Capitol Records after his passing. Next up is Cowboy Kaden, the podcast host of country music channel The KGC Show, talking to us from his home in Spokane, Washington.
Kenny Rogers has paved the way for so many artists. He was the first one to have Elvira out before the Oak Ridge Boys did. And I just wanted to say, Kenny Rogers, we miss you, we love you, and thank you so much for what you've contributed to country music. God bless you.
From humble beginnings to superstardom, a man who touched the hearts of so many in America and all over the world, a gentleman till the end. Kenny Rogers possessed an amazing gift of expressing a story through his chosen genre, whether it be music, screen, or his writing, and as for filling up our hearts and imaginations with so much joy, Kenny Rogers' journey will be forever remembered as the life of a legend.